We got a couple interesting projects to show you this morning. First, we're going to show you some of the cleanup we did on Johnny recently. Well, Johnny's had some pretty dirty projects going on, and you know, sometimes you see these videos in different orders, so you may not have actually seen the videos where we've had some really nasty, dusty tilling. And so, first thing we did was we got out the power washer and we cleaned him off. One thing I noticed as we were power washing was just how bad the diesel soot was on the left half of the loader bucket and under the front frame, all where the exhaust comes out here on Johnny. We got a couple of things we need to attack on that. First is we need to get all that cleaned up. You can see now it looks pretty good, but that's because I put Christy on that project, the queen of clean. She got that all cleaned up. I'll let her tell you how she chose to do that. And then once she gets done with that, I'll show you what we're going to do to keep that soot from staying on there long term. We've got a solution to that, a solution that I had used for almost a year, and then I took off for a variety of reasons, and now I'm going to put it back on. So stay tuned.
Tim asked me to help clean the soot off of Johnny. I had tried this before with other household cleaners and hadn't found anything that worked. I remembered that WD-40 had sent a bottle of Specialist Cleaner and Degreaser. I went through the box, which we had been keeping in the truck, and found the bottle of cleaner. The bottle says that it was industrial strength. I was still a little skeptical, but began to try to clean Johnny off. I sprayed the cleaner on each of the parts and then let it sit for a couple of minutes before I started wiping. But man, look what a great job it did. I was actually very impressed. Remember that Tim had already power washed the bucket and the areas where the soot was, and that hadn't taken it off at all. I turned my attention to the loader frame, figuring that would be the hardest place to get clean. So I sprayed it really well and again let it sit for a couple of minutes before I actually went back to wipe it down. The cleaner and degreaser took all that black soot off. The only thing that's left now is rust that, well, we need to probably repaint. We'll get around to that someday, I hope. Overall, I was really impressed with the cleaner degreaser's ability to get off not only the soot, but a lot of grease. One other area I've had trouble getting clean was the seat of Johnny, and this cleaner degreaser actually cleaned it up the best of anything I've tried in the past. It's a keeper. Thanks to WD-40 for letting us try out these specialist products. They're pretty amazing.
So what I've got here is a 1.5 inch exhaust turndown. I've put one of these on my Amazon storefront, amazon.com/shop/tractortimewithtim. The one I put on my storefront is 12 or 13 inches long, something like this. I don't remember how long the one I got was when I originally bought it, but I had to cut it off. Now, I used a pipe cutter. It was neighbor Bob's, so I can't show it to you. I'm sure it's gone now. And you know, it was one of those that you just keep turning and tightening to cut. I chose that pipe cutter because it would leave a nice smooth cut, okay? But the negative was that it indented the pipe as it cut it. I think if I had it to do over, I would probably just use some sort of a Sawzall or some sort of a power cutter, even though it would leave a little rougher edge here. I don't think you would notice that. Now, a 1.5 inch turndown is a little bit too big for this pipe, okay? But a 1.25 inch, which is the next size you can get, is too small. And thanks to a viewer for trying that for me. What I did to the 1.5 inch is I've cut some slits here. And I just used my multi-tool to cut each of those slits so that I could squeeze this down a little bit better. Now when you put it on here, it does have to be squeezed down tight or else it will vibrate. This takes a lot of vibration here when the engine is running. I probably could use even a little wider slits here, would really help, but this is what I've got, so we'll see if we can get it tight. Now, I also bought a clamp. You can use most any type of a clamp, I suppose, but I bought this one. I thought it would, heavier would be better when I bought it. As it turns out, I don't think it is. I think because of the way this is mounted, I would prefer to actually have a little bit lighter weight clamp than this. This clamp goes right on here, and that's how it's going to look in the finished state. But if I were you, I would choose a little lighter weight exhaust clamp just because of the vibration and everything. Okay, let's get started. We got to make sure we put the clamp on first. This is 9/16. So I explained that I had taken this off, and I actually haven't been running it for the last probably 2 years. And there are several reasons for that. The first reason is that when you have the exhaust coming out this way, there's noise. There's just a good bit of extra noise, and it seems to be pointed directly at you. Well, with the camera and all, we just didn't like that noise, so that was one of the negatives. Another negative is that when the axle comes up, this front axle oscillates. When it comes up, it can actually hit this clamp, or sometimes maybe even hit the pipe when it's in its fully raised position here. So because of that, I want to make sure that the clamp is turned upward as far as I can. That's a little hard to do here. Now, as far as the angle for this thing, I want the angle to be outward. I don't want it to be pointed downward because it'll stir up a bunch of dust and grass every time I go over anything. I don't want it to be pointed toward the tire because I could get the tire too hot and that would damage the tire. So the only point is to point it right out this direction. That's the only really possibility we've got. Now it's key that we get this tightened down really tight. And I say really tight, I mean obviously we don't want to collapse the exhaust pipe, but we can't have this loose. If we have this loose, it'll just rattle and won't be effective, and it'll turn itself downward. So there we go. Now I'm going to show you one of the other disadvantages to this. You're looking in from approximately the same angle that Christy is nearly every time I start the tractor for whatever reason. Check this out. So I went several months without this solution. Then I put it on for a year or so. Then I took it off for a year or maybe even 2. And now I'm putting it back on. Maybe I'm indecisive, but there are pluses and minuses. You make your own decision. Does the soot all over the tractor bother you more than the other disadvantages? You decide. Meanwhile, I'm pretty impressed with the results of the Queen of Clean. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time on Tractor Time with Tim.